This is so embarrassing as a producer, as a music engineer, to have these settings in my session and show them to you, show them to the public. Hey everybody, it is Woody, aka Super Tight Woody, and today we're talking about another track off my project Living Room called Stargaze. And I love this song because of its hipster vibe aesthetic, but I also love this song because it breaks the rules. If you are a creative person, if you are creating things, whether it is visual art, music, videos, whatever, graphic design, anything, right? It is best to approach it from a standpoint of breaking the rules, because rules are just put there to keep you in a box. But the other side of that coin is that you need to know those rules and know those processes in order to know how to finesse breaking the rules, if that makes any sense. I'll explain it more as we get into the Ableton session. But I feel like some producer, some audio engineer, or like one of my mixing and mastering homies should have came through and slapped me on the wrist with a ruler and been like, dude, why are you putting a limiter on this track and pushing it all the way, and then putting another limiter on this track and pushing it all the way, and then it's so nasty, it's so disgusting, but I love it. I love it so much. So let's dig into Stargaze, and I will show you this mishmash of audio swamp juice that collectively created this song. All right, let's go. I mean, it's nasty, dude. It's nasty. So the first thing we have is, I guess we should just start with the drums. So we have, and it's gross, right? Like the amount of EQ that I have on these drums, if I take off all these EQs, right? Opposed to, right? And that sounds like S-H-I to the tizzle, but in context, it sounds dope. And so there's things like that where you have to know how to finesse things and how to make things sound good in context, right? It's not just the individual channels. So then the main sample, before I actually bounced it to audio, there's an auto tune on there. There is an OTT multiband limiter. There was a shaper box. There was some EQ, a lot of nasty EQ. And then after I was taking out some of the gross dissonant frequencies, another multiband. This thing has been bounced like 8 times and re-recorded 8 times. And it's crazy because the sample that I used from this track, I got it from Splice. And there's no way you would ever even be able to tell the original source material. Okay, here's the original sample. Hear it there, right? But the cool thing is I actually chopped it up, and then I went and used AI to separate the stems from the sample, took a vocal out, and then used that as the main. So you can hear vocals in there, but then the second part, I separated the vocal. And there is so much reverb, dude. There's 42% reverb, and the verb time is 8.7 seconds. So let's listen to it without, right? and let's listen to it with. And you can hear it ducking, right? I have this thing called a shaper box on it that kind of makes it pump with the beats per minute of the song, right? It's a side chain. And putting the reverb on and then that makes it more of a melodic instrument rather than just having the reverb just be like, bah, in the background. The crazy thing was I had to use auto-tune on the sample. So I chopped up the sample, pitched it way down, put a bunch of limiting and effects on it, converted it to audio, and then I had to play bass guitar over it. So when I played bass, it was like very out of tune from standard tuning. So I actually had to put auto-tune on the sample to get the bass and everything else to sound good with it. When you just have this bass where I'm actually missing a plugin, but that's like a distortion plugin. So just check out the limiter, dude. And I have auto-tune on the bass also, but I have guitar rig that all my plugins are so messed up. But I have guitar rig on it, that's some processing. Then I have the limiter almost turned all the way up, dude. And then I had a distortion on the bass. I wanted it to sound like a bargain bin vinyl from the thrift store that has just been like rubbed in dirt, and then you just play it and it just sounds terrible, but like at the same time it sounds really good. And you'll see when I go to the mastering of the track, like the main channel, there's so much stuff on there to even accentuate that vibe further, where with limiting, compression, and all kinds of nasty shite. There was some other elements. Look at this, dude. This is so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing as a producer, as a music engineer, right? To have these settings in my session and show them to you, show them to the public is just crazy. Because I have this crazy amount of reverb, then I have this EQ that basically takes everything out of the sound, which makes zero sense, right? But it's one of those things where you just have to follow what you think sounds good. More reverb, more flanger, OTT, more EQ, and another shaper box. The one interesting thing for this sound is this automated auto filter, right? But then you turn the auto filter on, and what that's doing is cutting out all the high end, but to the rhythm. So whoop, 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 whoop. It's like automating the cutout EQ of the high end of the sound. And it sounds really bad. In context, but in context, it sounds cool. There's another sound that I put in there. And that's just something that I played in Omnisphere, just an instrument. What I want to show you next is the most disgusting part of this session. So let's listen to it with zero effects on the master fader. So it's just blah, right? It sounds cool, but then I put this limiter on and just crank it, right? And then a saturator. And then multi-band dynamics. And then another limiter. And then this magma tube thing that like adds distortion. then MV2, right? Then a limiter, and then a limiter, dude. Like, you should come arrest me. Like, this is crazy to be using a limiter, right? This is the last plugin on the chain, and I am just squishing it to all hell and back. But that's the thing that you have to know. You have to know what these plugins do. You have to know what the desired result is that you're going for. And once you learn the game, once you learn the parameters and what these different things do, you can start to understand how to sound design, essentially, and learn that, okay, I'm going for this dirty vinyl bargain bin record, the sound. And what does that sound like? It's distorted, right? It has a bunch of like vinyl noise, and you can mimic that by introducing limiting, EQ, like drastic, weird EQ, and then limiting it again, and then all these things that I did in here to get to the desired result. Because ultimately, this wasn't really a mistake. It was like etching away at a sculpture that you're creating. So that is Stargaze. And next time you listen to it, just keep some of these things in mind, that I absolutely just destroyed these sounds and, you know, ripped them apart, put them back together. And I think I created something beautiful and something that's really amazing to listen to. So go ahead and vibe out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I will see you in the next video. All right, peace.